Let us get started with Power BI. Let us see what is Power BI, what is the use of it. This is our first session on Power BI. Let us see the introduction to Power BI. The visualization that you see here, if we have good clarity on what we need to create, then this visualization can be created within 30 minutes using Power BI. Power BI is a powerful data visualization tool which can help us to create these creative, very interactive dashboards very easily. With good practice on Power BI, we can create great visualizations like this very easily. These are all the visualizations. These dashboards are created using Power BI. In fact, we are also going to create similar dashboards like this, and it's not very difficult. So what is Power BI? Power BI is a tool created by Microsoft. It's a data visualization tool. Microsoft Power BI is a tool that converts our data into interactive dashboards or insights. Using Power BI, we can easily connect to various data sources. Literally every data source that is possible, you can connect to Excel, SQL, different type of data sources. You can connect and create dashboards. The best part is Power BI is very simple, easy to learn, easy to understand. We can create visualizations very fast. It's most comprehensive. If you compare it with the other visualization tools, there are other visualization packages as well, or the tools, something like Tableau, you have Spotfire, you have OBI. There are several other data visualization or business intelligence tools. Compared to them, this one is the most comprehensive. It has so many options. It looks very complete. In the recent years, in past 1 or 2 years, Power BI has entered the top category. This is right now world's most widely used business intelligence or the data visualization tool. So there are several elements in Power BI. There is something called Power BI Desktop, Power BI Services, Power BI Mobile. Mostly we will be working on Power BI Desktop. This is where you will do all the work. Then Power BI Services, somebody don't want to create any reports, they just want to see already created reports, then you can use Power BI Services. And on mobile phone also you can watch Power BI reports, you can play with them, you can apply the filtering even on Power BI on Android tablet or something. Also you can use Power BI. Usually the most widely used one is Power BI Desktop. This is where our real business problems are solved. Our course is mainly on Power BI Desktop. How do you download and install Power BI? Power BI Desktop is free for individual usage. You can download it. You simply need to go to Google and type Power BI, download and install Power BI Desktop. Simply type that and then go to the first link, powerbi.microsoft.com. Then Power BI Desktop, you just simply download it. Okay, you can simply download it. Can you see that download button here? Power BI Desktop. There are several other options, so ignore all the options. I'm talking about Power BI Desktop. Then simply download that Power BI Desktop. Okay. Once you download that and install it, then we are ready to go ahead with some of the options that are available on Power BI. So let me open my Power BI. Once you installation process is pretty easy. It doesn't take a lot of time also. Only downloading takes time. Once you download it, then like any other software that you install, it's damn easy to install Power BI Desktop. You will not face any issues. There will be no hiccups at all. I can guarantee that. Okay. So once everything is created, once you try to open Power BI, it will look like this. This is the opening screen. Sometimes there is another screen that is shown. You have to simply uh, ignore the window. Sometimes it pops up a new window that you can ignore. Once you close that, then this will be the opening screen that you see once you open the Power BI. Okay, once you download and install it, that's the opening screen that you see. Okay, at the top, whatever you see here on the top, file, if you go back, file, home, insert, model, and all that, that is known as a ribbon. Generally, when somebody is saying, look at the Power BI ribbon. So all these options are just like your Excel. You can imagine Power BI as one of the very, very, very advanced version of Excel pivot tables. Like if you take Excel pivot tables and try to add all the options that are possible, maybe 100 times efficient if you make it, 100 times more options if you add it, that becomes Power BI. If you are good at Excel, it will really help you to understand Power BI very easily. A lot of places you will be drawing comparisons, you will be drawing a lot of analogies. Yes, I used to do that in Excel the same way it is done here. There are so many things that are very similar to Excel, but however, there are several things that are very different here as well. Without knowledge of Excel also, you can manage it, but with the knowledge of Excel, it will be useful. Okay. This is called as ribbon. On this side that you see here, on the left hand side, report, and then data, and then model. We're going to see these details. We generally, what we tend to do is sometimes we create report, sometimes we play around with data, sometimes we create the relations between some of the data. So generally we tend to switch between these three tabs. Okay, these three options that are there on the left hand side. We're going to see all of those. I'm just giving you a basic introduction. Okay. On the right hand side that you see here, this is a shortcut to visualization, shortcut to filters that we are going to add, shortcut to some of the fields. Once you get the data, then you will see the data fields here. Fields means data columns, and then basic visualizations. You can create a bar chart, you can create a pie chart, you can create a trend chart, you can create a scatter plot, you can create a map chart. This visualization shortcut can be seen here. Okay. And the one that you see here in the middle, this is where the visualizations are created. Right at the middle, add data to report. Once you add the data, this whole thing is known as canvas. Right in the middle, this is known as canvas. Right now in we don't see the canvas here. Right now you see add report, add data to your report is the option. Once you add the data, this whole thing will become blank. That will be the canvas where we will be working and where we will be creating our graphs, visualizations. We will be telling the stories based on the reports that we are based on the visualization that we create on this canvas. There is one important option, the one that you see here at the top. This is known as transform data. You see this transform data? Can you see that at the top? Transform data, that is another item, that is one icon that we click. That is a place where we prepare our data for analysis. That's the place where we transform the data, make the modifications to the data. If we have to add new columns, we add the columns there. If we have to clean the data, if there are missing values in the data, if we are replacing them with some values, if there are any issues or the errors in the data transformation phase, before getting into the analysis, we transform the data. So there are some key steps in Power BI. You can say there are four major steps in Power BI. First, we load the data. The data can be at different sources. Not always your data is in one file. Maybe sometimes you have data on four different files. You can connect to those four different files. Sometimes the data is on SQL server. Sometimes the data is in Excel. Sometimes the data is on, you have Hadoop, HDFS, Hadoop distributed file systems. Like that, your data can be anywhere. So get the data, load the data, transform and model the data. If there are any data pre-processing steps that are required, you have to use transformations. We are going to see what do you mean by transform the data. Then model the data. If you need to connect these tables, there is some primary key, there is some secondary key. If you have to connect these tables, and modeling the data means creating the relations between the tables. Model the data means create the relations, join the tables, prepare the data for analysis. Then finally create visualizations. What do you mean by visualization? Tell a story using the data that you have. Finally, you publish and share the reports. Publishing the reports, you can publish them online. There is a Power BI app.powerbi something.com where you can actually publish the reports on a server, and you can simply give this link to your stakeholders or your clients. where they enter that link, then they can see that report. These are the 4 key steps. Out of these, as a data scientist or as a business analyst, you will be very heavily working on those 3 steps. You load the data very much, a lot of time you'll be spending on transforming the data, creating the uh, relations, and then finally you'll be spending hell lot of time on creating the visualization. One important note that I want to tell you before you when you get started with Power BI, one of the important point is you cannot be a or you cannot create a good business intelligence report without understanding the underlying business. Randomly you have some columns, randomly you start creating some graphs. Those graphs may look good, but at the end of the day you have to solve a business problem. You need to have a good understanding of the business problem. These beautiful graphs, these attractive graphs that we see here, they should be useful, they should tell us a story. If there is no story that is coming out of these graphs, they just look beautiful, but I'm not able to derive any useful business insights, I'm not able to take anything out of this, then this is not useful. Though it may look good, but it is not really helping our business cause. That is why what I'm saying is you must be uh, having good understanding of the underlying business knowledge while working on business intelligence projects or business intelligence reports or any other data science projects in general. Always focus on understanding the business problem. If you have absolutely no idea on what problem you're solving, don't solve that problem. Simple. If you are creating a Power BI report, if and I ask you, what is the objective? Why are you creating? What is the business problem? What is the variables? What is the meaning of this variable? If the answer is no, I don't know what is this data all about. I have absolutely no idea. Then it is as good as saying this report is absolutely useless. Without knowing what is the background, without knowing what is our objective, we cannot create a business report. If we know where we want to go, then only we can take the right bus. Without knowing our destination, without knowing what is our goal or objective, we cannot randomly sit in any bus and expect to reach somewhere. That's not going to help us. Data visualization, there's a misconception. A lot of times when I say data visualization, a lot of people think about creating beautiful reports or beautiful visualizations. It's not about creating attractive dashboards. No, that's a just a side product. It looks good, that's it. It's about coming up with valuable insights. Valuable insights are important, that are not easy to extract from raw data. If I see the raw data, yes, I cannot get that insight. Instead of that raw data, you create this visualization that is helping me to get these insights. Those insights I can use in my strategies. That's important. That is why when you are learning any business intelligence tool, something like Power BI or Tableau, or when you are learning data science, simply just don't learn the options. If you're learning Power BI, if somebody is telling you this is option one, this is option two, this is option three, you can use it here, you can use it here, you can use it here. If I keep on just looking at the options, that is useless without knowing what is the business background. Always start with the business problem first. Once you have the problem statement, this is just a medium, this is just a tool to solve that problem. So in this session, what we will do is we'll take a case study and then we will try to solve that case study. While solving it, we will use Power BI as our main tool. Let us see what is the output this Power BI will give us finally. Can we really solve that problem? So here the project is related to healthcare. The case study is stroke prediction. What are the main risk factors that will cause stroke? So let us understand the problem statement. That is step one. According to World Health Organization, stroke is the second leading death cause of death globally. Mostly in USA, a lot of people get affected with stroke. There are so many reasons why people get affected with stroke. Okay. And this is additional information about stroke. What is stroke? This is just simply I have taken it from one healthcare related website and I kept here. If you want to know a little bit more about stroke and how do you check stroke, There is a shortcut called fast. Face. You have to check the face, ask the person to smile. Does the side of the face drop? Then that is a symptom. Arms, then speech, if the person is stuttering, and then time. Fast is the check. Okay. Immediately you call 911 like emergency number, then get admitted. So now what we want to do is our data set has several, our data set has taken the data of patients who got affected with stroke. Some patients got affected with stroke, some patients did not have stroke. And we have all the columns. Stroke is the final variable that we are very much interested in, and we have other variables like we have the gender of the patients, we have whether the patients have hypertension, BP or not, blood pressure, whether they have the record of any heart disease or not. Okay, what kind of work type, whether they are rural or urban, what is their glucose level, etc., whether they smoke or not smoke. Like that we have all the vital information. And then finally whether the patient has got stroke or not. Out of all these columns, out of all these factors, we want to know what are the major risky factors. We want to analyze this data and finally inform that, you know what, if your age is this much, if you have this, if you have this, if you are from this category, if you fall into this type of, this segment of customers or this segment of patients, then you have a high probability for getting stroke. And if you have this, if you fall into this segment, there is a low probability of getting stroke. You can be, you called as very safe person. We want to analyze the data. We want to find out what are the major risk factors that are causing stroke. Okay, that is our objective. Have you understood the objective? We want to find out what causes stroke, what kind of, what type of people or what kind of patients, what is that patient segment that has very high chance for stroke. That's the objective here. Let us start this objective. There are multiple steps. It's not that easy to find it out. Let us go through each step by step. Let us start by loading the data and get the basic details of the data. Let us get an understanding of the data. Okay. In our session, I have given the data set. First, let's load that data. Let me open the data set for you. Where is our data set? If you go to our class material, in our class material, there is a folder called Power BI sessions data. Can you see that? In our class material, Power BI sessions data is there. Power BI sessions data in that healthcare data set, stroke data version 1.xlsx. This is the file. So what I'll do is I'll just go here and then let me minimize this. What is this? What type of data is it? This is XLSX. So import data from Excel. I can do it this option. This option is fine. Or I can use get data, Excel workbook. That is also fine. So let us use get data option. And then I'll locate that place where, let me get that path. Yep. And then healthcare dataset stroke data version 1.xlsx. Trying to load the data. Let's try to load the data. While you are loading the data, you can see there are two sheets: general data details sheet, risk factor sheet, general details table, risk factors table. Looks like there are 4 sheets, but for me in the data, there are not 4 sheets, there are only 2 sheets. If you open the data outside, there are only 2 sheets, but here we see 4 sheets. But actually, these are not 4 sheets. These are actually first 2 are the sheets: general detail sheet, risk factor sheet, and these 2 are the tables. So what happens in Excel is inside one sheet, there can be multiple tables. So generally, instead of taking the whole sheet, that's not a good idea. Better to choose the table that you want to select. I want to get general details table, risk factors table, and I'd say load the data. You say load the data. Once you try to load the data, sometimes there can be some errors while loading the data, but we will handle those errors a little later. For me, it is loading the data. Once the data gets loaded, on the right hand side, you will see something on the fields. Can you check that? If you go to fields, in general details table, I have patient age, whether he is married or not. Patient profile details are there. What is the patient gender, ID, patient ID, response, residence type, rural or urban, work type, and then risk factors like health related, average glucose level, BMI, heart disease, whether that patient has heart disease or hypertension, or patient ID, smoking. Finally, the patient has stroke or not. This is historical data. We already know who are the customers who are the patients who got stroke, and who are the patient who did not get stroke. Okay, this data is there. Okay, but what is the objective here? We want to find out what are the major risk factors. Finally, we want to do the segmentation and come up with a customer segment or a patient segment one, where there is a high chance for these type of people to get stroke, and segment two, which is a very low risk segment, high risk and low risk segment. Okay, so you can have a look at the fields quickly. Okay, if you want to change some of the column types, we can change BMI. I expect it to be a number, but it is not number here. If you see this sign, summation, it means that it is numeric. If you don't see that sign, that means it is non-numeric. Smoking status is fine. Ever married, gender, residence type, work type is fine. But BMI I expect it to be numeric, but it is not numeric. There must be something in that. We can check that. Okay. Let's have a look at the data. On the right hand side here, you see the option data. Okay, so click on that data. Do it along with me. When you click on that data, what can you see? When you click on that data, you can see the two tables, isn't it? When you click on data, let me use a magnifier here. Let us see. I'll try to open a magnifier so that you can see it easily. All right. So here is our magnifier. Oopsie. So here is the place. I think it is ruining the actual effect. Let's ignore this magnifier. Let's reduce it further. Okay. So on the left hand side, you see here, this is table. On the right hand side, general details table, risk factors table. You can have a quick look at it. Okay. General detail table has ID, gender, age, ever married, work type, and so on. And then risk factor table has heart disease, glucose, like it takes only values, zeros and ones and blank, etc., etc. This is the data that we can see, doesn't it? Yeah. You can have a quick look at the data. Okay. You can see some of the fields. Just get a basic understanding of the data. Just have a quick look at the data. There will be some issues. If you have found any issues, that is perfectly fine. We are going to prepare the data. We are going to, like, the next step is transform the data. Transformation of the data means transform it in such a way that you can analyze the data later on. As of now, we have just got the data inside and this is not ready for doing the analysis. Okay, so we are going to do the data transformation next. Okay, so our next step is, what is the first step? Step one was understanding of the business objective. That was step one. What is the objective? Step two is get the data in. Somehow we got the data. We got both the tables in. Now step three is transform the data, prepare it for analysis. That is coming up in the next session. Let's get into data transformation once you have the data in.